Hello, beautiful children. It is amazing to see you in my mind's eye. Are we ready to roll back the time for the two Parshiot Bible portions in the third book of the Torah Vayikra, Tazriya Metzora time? Are you ready? Rolling back the time, and one more, rolling back the time, and one more, rolling back the time, and thinking and thinking and thinking. Just to say, not only are we going to quickly whiz through the two Parshiot of Tazriya and Metzora, but we're also going to reflect on the fact that tonight, as the sun goes down, we're entering Yom HaZikaron, Israel Memorial Day, where we remember the history of Israel and what Israel went through in order to become independent. And it lasts a whole day, and then tomorrow night we will have Israeli Independence Day, and I'm sure your teachers and family will tell you a lot more about that. What can I tell you about Parshat Tazriya Metzora? Well, what I can tell you is less gossip, please. Now, that is not in this week's Parshiot in the Torah. It doesn't say less gossip, please. But there was a very famous person who wasn't Jewish who passed away last week. And his name was His Royal Highness Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, married to the Queen, and kind of like the grandfather and the great-grandfather of the nation. And we are very lucky. He was in our prayers, and we were very, very lucky that we had such a wonderful individual who was married to the Queen and supported her. And he said, less gossip, please, according to a very entertaining person called Giles Brendreth. So what's that got to do with this week's Parsha? Wait and see. Okay. So how do we start? This week's Parsha begins with the fact that there is a mitzvah of what? Well, here's a little baby boy and the number 8. So Jewish boys, when they are 8 days old, if they are well enough, even on Shabbat, when we can't make a wound, it is a sign of the covenant between Hashem and Abraham from Parshat Lech Lecha in the first book of the Torah, Bereshit. They have a circumcision. So the mitzvah of Brit Milah, the sign of the covenant between Abraham and Hashem from Parshat Lech Lecha. Every Jewish male was circumcised from the time of Abraham. Now the mitzvah is repeated in this week's Parsha to ensure that the Brit is done on the 8th day, even if it's on Shabbat, when we can't make a wound, just as long as the baby is healthy. What else do we learn? Well, we can't have a baby boy without a baby girl, can we? Doesn't matter whether you're a boy or a girl. What's important is that you are loved and you are special, and the Torah talks about you. After 33 days for a baby boy and 66 days for a baby girl, the mummy brings a lamb, korban olah, and a dove, korban chatat, to Hashem's special tent, the Mishkan, as a korban or a present to Hashem. And she can bring 2 birds and no lamb if she doesn't have enough money for the lamb. Does this happen today? No. This is all the rules about Hashem's special tent, the Mishkan, and Hashem's special house, the Bet HaMikdash. But we learn it anyway. It's very, very important to learn the mitzvot, even if we don't keep them today. It's very important to know. Okay, next one coming along. We're whizzing this week. Right, it's a face mask. And my face mask, what does my face mask say? My face mask says, Lashon Hara, speak no evil. Lashon Hara, lamed hey, please don't tell me anyway. Tzarat, the Lashon Hara, illness. Now, you didn't just get Tzarat because you spoke Lashon Hara, but it was the most one that you would get punished for with Tzarat. Does it happen today? No. In the olden days, in the time of the Torah, the Jewish people were so holy that if they actually spoke negatively but truthfully, they weren't nice about each other, then they would get this spiritual disease, this disease that's no longer around. And the Jewish people were holy enough to get it on their bodies. So it could be 2 hairs in a patch of skin or a healthy skin in a white spot. I'm not going to get into it too much because it's very complicated for the little ones. But it's just important to know what it was and why you would get it. Could you only get it on your body? No. Of of course, on your head, on your beard. I don't have a beard. We also discussed this a little bit in last week's Parsha, so I've done it. But you could get it on your clothing, white clothing, wool or linen or leather. You could get it on your house for speaking negatively, albeit truthfully, about others. The Kohen, the high priest, would decide, and the person would have to isolate. We know all about that, don't we? Quarantining for 10 days. But in this case, the person who might be a Metzora would have to quarantine for 7 days and leave all the camps to do teshuvah. Right. So what types of colour was this white? Well, anybody would say, Natalie, white is only one colour, white. Duh, you can't have more than one shade of white. Oh, yes, you can. I'm an artist and a poet. You can have lots of shade of white. So this tzorat would actually come in 4 different shades of white, reflecting different types of the tzorat. Bright white, white as snow, the most severe, baheret. Then you would get a milder white, sapachat beheret, which would be plaster colour on the walls of the Bet HaMikdash, that kind of colour on the Kodesh section. Then you could have a darker white, se'et, clear white wool. And then you could have a milder version, sapachat se'et, which would be the inside of an eggshell colour. What's the Kohen looking for? 2 white hairs in a patch or a patch of healthy skin within a white spot. The person goes into quarantine. If still 2 white hairs in a patch or healthy skin within a white spot, the person is declared a Metzora. Not leprosy, absolutely not leprosy. And if not, then they wait another week in quarantine. If after 2 weeks the spot has gone or the Kohen doesn't see 2 white hairs in a patch, the case is closed. And the Metzora had to leave all 3 camps where the Bnei Israel were camped at the time of Hashem's special tent, the Mishkan. When there was the Bet HaMikdash, Hashem's special house, then the Metzora had to leave the walled city. Nobody can come within how many feet of the Metzora? Not 2 feet like for COVID, within 8 feet. Can you imagine how far away that would be, children? Much worse than it would be at the moment. 8 whole feet, not just 2 feet. Don't come any closer, the Metzora would have to say. He'd have to put a mask or a scarf or something round his face. So there we go. It's a type of a pandemic, a spiritual one for being mean and saying horrible things about each other, even if they're true. And the Metzora would have enough time to sit and think about these bad deeds. What's the cure for tzorat? Well, the cure for COVID, some of it is a vaccine. Hopefully nobody will catch it, and if we're sensible and we all keep the rules, we get rid of it. Tzorat was a spiritual illness. The cure for tzorat was doing teshuvah, was saying sorry to Hashem and not doing it again. Okay, so we've learned. And if white wool or linen, cloth or leather could contract the tzorat, there would be green or red spots on it and it would have to be brought to the Kohen. And the garment was locked away for a week, and if the spot was still there or growing, it would be burned. And the Kohen would go out of the camps to check the Metzora. And how would the person be able to be cleansed properly? It would involve an earthenware, 2 birds. 1 bird would be given back to Hashem as a present, and the other bird would be able to go free with a hyssop tree, bit from a hyssop tree with a red woolen string and a branch from the hyssop tree and a stick of cedar wood. And they would tie this all together, and they'd be sprinkling 7 times on the Metzora's hand, and the Metzora would be sent away. The Metzora would have to shave all his hair off, dip in a mikveh to purify himself, count 7 days, and then on the 7th day, all the hair shaved again. And the Metzora and all his clothes would be dipped in the mikveh for cleaning his body, and he would bring all 4 different types of presents to Hashem: Korban Chatat, Korban Asham, Korban Olah, Korban Mincha. And the Kohen would place the special stuff that he'd got in the earthenware bowl and oil onto the right earlobe of the Metzora, the middle joint of the right thumb, the middle joint of the right big toe. Okay, Why would you get Metzora on a house? Well, maybe you didn't want to give tzedakah. Maybe you didn't want to be honest about what you truly had. So if there was something no good in the house, then everything has to come out of the house, because otherwise the house, the whole house, everything in it would be contaminated, would be spoilt with this tzara'at. So everybody would know what you would have. The house would be locked for 7 days. 7 days later, if it was clean, maybe you'd have to take out some of the bricks and check again 7 days later. And if it was still there, the home would be destroyed. Don't forget, children, that at the time when the Israelites were getting some of these houses, maybe they were houses that belonged to the Canaanites before. And so they used to worship idols. Maybe they had idols stuck there. And so therefore, the house could come down with a sign that it needed to be checked. Okay, Lashon Hara, the Chafetz Chaim, very special rabbi, sort of explains this. I'm not saying it word for word, but sort of explains this. You could say, so what if I say something about my friend? What's 4 to 5 words a day? Nothing. Okay, now I can't add up, children, but the Chafetz Chaim obviously could, and he could put these very important messages down for all of us. 4 to 5 words a day. How many does that make a week? Grown-ups, can you count? It makes 30 words a week. And how many weeks have we got in the year? 52 weeks in a year. So that now makes 4,500 words. And what happens if somebody, for example, is 68? That would mean 80,000 words of Lashon Hara. It's like a story of someone inviting you to go to a restaurant. Now we can eat out to help out. Come and eat at a restaurant. I'll pay the bill. And we think that's nice. And we go to this yummy restaurant and we can have everything we want on the bill. So we eat everything. But when it's time to pay the bill, the person that has invited us is no longer there. Lashon Hara, Lamed Hey, please don't tell me anyway. Don't let your friends encourage you because they're your best friend and they want to tell you something horrible about someone else. Don't spread it, don't share it. Of course, children, if you have something that bothers you, tell your mummies and daddies or tell a teacher. That's not the same thing. But please don't spread Lashon Hara. Listen to your mummies and daddies and do what they say. Listen to your mummies and daddies. Please don't forget to pray. Listen to your mummies and daddies. The rabbis lead the way. Then they will be happy. For the very few amount that are able to book, I am, please God, Yetz Hashem, I will be back doing my children's service this Shabbat. And for those that can't book, here I am on the video, and I will carry on the video, please God, for the rest of the books of the Torah. Take care. See you soon. Bye.